Hello, everyone. My name's Tamara Osborne. I am the co-project director for the Desired Results Training and Technical Assistance Project. Today, we are talking all about the environment rating scales and the requirements from California Department of Social Services. So what we're discussing right now is that if you only are a CSPP program, that's the only group or that's the only contract you have and that you're supporting, this webinar is not for you because you do not have a requirement to complete the environment rating skills through that contract. Your requirement is to do class. If you have CCTR, this is the place for you. If you have both CCTR and CSPP, this is the place for you. If you only have CSPP, I want to make sure you're using your time to its maximum capacity before we get an hour into the workshop. We're going to go ahead and jump into our content. Just a reminder that the slides I am showing today, yes, you have access to them on the Google Doc. We've given you a PowerPoint plus documents for you to download and print so that you can use them as you train your staff. So Melissa left a question in the chat asking why don't we use the ECHRS 3, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. CDSS programs actually have a choice. You can choose. You can choose to use the ERS or I'm sorry, ERS-R for revised, or you can use the ERS 3. It's up to you. Your consultants are allowing you or saying that it's okay for you to choose between those two versions. There are some resources already created and a lot of free things around ERS-R for revised. And for the ERS 3, there are only a couple of free resources available. So I'm going to show you where you can find resources for both of them.
Which one would auditors use? Like if they were able to use both? Or
Right.
do they know how to use both?
Oh, the auditors, do you mean your monitor from
Our
CDSS?
reviewers. Yeah.
Yes, so your reviewers from CDSS, I would say contact your specific consultant and ask them.
Okay.
And then Amanda, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, great question. So yes, when we go on our review, we do use the three, and that is the tool that we will be using to observe your environment. And then if you are using a different view, that is completely fine. In the section of our tool, we do request to look at the current ITERs or ECHRs that you did, and but it's fine whatever tool that you are using.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. So we also sent out ERS booklets to everyone. So my question is in the chat box, did you receive your booklet? Did you receive your ERS booklet? Yes or no? It was a
It
part of
was one per
registration.
agency.
It was one per agency. Thank you, Maria. And they were shipped out with several other booklets, right, Maria? I think we sent out some foundations.
That is correct. And it was actually back in October.
Yeah, it was back in October. So Maria's going to take note of those who are telling us that they didn't receive them. We'll check our files to see if where they were sent to. So the environment rating scales are used for CDSS and have been a part of the desired results system for a number of years now. It's a good inter-rater reliability and validity tool, and it's been a part of a lot of different research studies. The whole point of it is that it covers these 4 process quality areas around interactions, space, the schedule, and materials. The purpose, of course, is to look at how, there we go, programs are setting up quality environments each of the three basic components that are on your screen around protection of health, around positive relationships, and the opportunities for stimulation. Those all show up in very tangible formats within a program, such as your curriculum, such as supervision, such as interaction. And then those key aspects are what we call process quality. And then by definition, process quality is assessed through observation and has been found to be very predictive of child outcomes through those different indicators. Since I gave everyone that Google Doc, we're going to open that up right now. So go ahead and open up your Google Doc, and I'm going to place it on the screen so everyone can see it. So here on the Google Doc is where you have the PowerPoint and the binder pages. This one right here, handout that says binder, that's what we're opening up right now. Go ahead and open that up. I like to open mine in PDF. It just allows me to write on it and highlight it. So similar to our first session where we talked about the DRDP and the different training materials we provided for you, we've done the same for environment rating scale. So you'll find this table of contents that lists the different activities that are inside of here. And then it'll start with the PowerPoint that's for you to use as you train, and then all of the handouts that can be downloaded and printed. I'm going to encourage everyone to go to the last pages. I believe it is page 45, because it pertains to the question that was just asked. So we've included some documents that show you the key differences to consider if you're moving from the R to the 3. And that exists not only for the ECHRs, but also for family childcare and also for infant toddler. So that's in your documents as a training resource. So I'm going to place everyone into a breakout room. You're going to need this document. The different activities include an inter-rater reliability activity. How do we write our summary of findings? How do I complete that profile? How do I write a summary of findings at the agency level? I'm going to ask you to decide what activities you need to do with your staff. You know your staff better than anyone else, where they are in this process and what's needed. So I'm going to ask you to have a discussion in your breakout rooms about which activities you think would be most helpful for your staff to do. You have 5 minutes and go. Welcome back, everybody. On the screen, I have the table of contents. I'm going to ask everyone to please annotate and go ahead and either circle or place a stamp next to the activities that you think would be most helpful for your staff. If you can't figure that out, you can go ahead and type it into the chat box too. To find your annotate, look for the little green pencil. It's usually over in the bottom left corner, and then it'll give you this pop-up, and you can either circle, stamp onto the screen. Yep, thank you so much. Thank you for those typing into the chat. Thank you, Myra. Inter-rater reliability activity. The summary of findings handout. There's a summary of findings per classroom, and then there's a summary of findings for the program. So you already have, as I mentioned, the PowerPoints that I'm going to share with you, and you already have the handouts you're going to need to do those activities with your staff. So regardless of which age group you are using, contractors will complete an environment rating scale that's appropriate for the type of setting and age of the children they serve. So you might use more than one of these. Annually, you are required to do an environment rating scale on each classroom within your agency. Again, this is for CDSS funded programs. For each environment rating scale completed, the contractor has to achieve at least a minimum average score of good on each of the subscales. And we'll go through some of those requirements even more as we go through. So just a quick overview, depending on your age group, the number of items may change. So in the yellow booklet environment rating scales, there are 43 individual items built into 7 subscales. For infant toddler, there are 39 items built into 7 subscales. And then if you have school age, there are 43 items within 7 subscales, and then 38 items into 7 subscales. So the answers to the questions I'm going to ask are actually either inside the booklet or on the Google Doc that I gave to everybody. When you look at your environment rating scale for each of the items, it goes across the left in a numbering pattern, and there are 4 levels of quality, just 4. And it starts with inadequate and goes this way to the next one. On the screen, if you can, oh my goodness, annotate, that word just left my brain. If you could annotate, what are the 4 levels of quality within your environment rating scale? You can either type them in the chat or you can write them on the screen using annotate. 4 levels of quality. I gave you the first one of inadequate. Oh, I see them showing up. Inadequate, minimal, there's all 4. Good and excellent. So it goes on this continuum of inadequate, that's over here at a 1, all the way to excellent, which becomes, yep, thank you. I see those coming in, a 7. So for each of those items, I'm gonna go back a slide really quick. For each of those 38 or 43 items, you're scoring them on those levels of quality. Now, one of the training resources that's available that we also provided inside of the materials we mailed back in October is an activity training workbook. There's one for infant toddler, there's one for preschool, there's one for school age. And we like these because they only cost like $3 or $4, but they offer you some great training techniques on supporting your staff and understanding the environment rating scale. So here on the Google Doc, there is a link to a video right there. And right above it is the preschool video guide. Thank you, Maria. Go ahead and open up that preschool video guide. So in the preschool video guide, this comes out of the workbook. We're just going to do a quick activity together. So I wanted to make sure everybody had what they needed to do that. In the video guide, it's going to give you instructions on how to use the video that's right underneath it in order to rate the item from your environment rating scale. Practice rating. Perfect. That way, when you have someone coming in to observe, or if you have teachers supporting other teachers in observing classrooms, they have an idea of what they're looking for, what it actually looks like, and they've done some practice with the rating. So right now we are going to take a look at the page number 3, where it explains how to rate on your environment rating scales. It gives you all the instructions. How do I get a rating of 1? How do I get a rating of 2? How do I get a rating of 3? Now, this is where it might get a little confusing. You might need to read the directions more than once, but that's totally fine. So you get a 1 if anything under that very first column is marked as a yes. I know that sounds backwards and confusing, but if you get all the yes underneath that first column, then you have a rating of 1. 1, remember, is minimal. So that is not what is inadequate. So that's not what we're trying to do. In order to get a rating of 2, it lets you know that everything under 1 needs to be a no, and at least half of under 3 are scored a yes. So if at any time you're not sure how to score, just come back to the instructions that are right here in the front of this workbook and in front of the colored workbook, either the yellow one, the green one, the blue one, or the purple one. So what we are about to do is score the sample situation, or you're going to do this inside of your breakout room. So I'm going to ask everyone to scroll to page number 7. I'm going to give you a few seconds to get to page 7, page number 7. So page number 7, it has an actual item. Here's item number 2, furniture for routine care, play, and learning. This is the item you're going to score in your breakout room. Number 1 is over here, and then the next column is 3, the next column is 5, the next column is 7. You're going to score this situation that's up here at the top. So in your breakout room, you're going to read that situation. You're going to decide based on this information, this is all you have, how to score here. So you need to score either a yes or a no for 1.1. Based on the situation, is there insufficient basic furniture? Based on this situation, you need to score yes or no for furniture is generally in such poor repair. And then remember, if you need to refer back to the instructions on how to score, we go back here to intro 3. I want everything under 1 to be a no. It might not be based on the situation, but that's what we're working for. In order to get a 2, I need to have everything under 1 be a no, and I need to have at least half of those scored yes under number 3. I'm going to pause and see if I need to clarify the instructions. I think we are ready to go into our breakout room. You are scoring what's on page number 7 using the little score box here and the situation at the top. All right, I think we're ready to go. So you'll be in your breakout rooms for the next 8 minutes. We'll come back here in 8 minutes. On your mark, get set, go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. In the chat, if you could go ahead and type the score that you discussed with your group. Go ahead and place that in the chat. I see lots of 4s, big 4s, big 4, 4, 4, 4s, scores of 4. You got a 7. Let's talk about it. I'm just choosing a name. I promise I'm not picking on anybody. I'm really choosing Tammy because it starts like me, T-A-M. So Tammy, can you tell us how you got to a 4?
Okay. I'm like, what? Who, me?
Tamara, Tammy. I was like, oh, that looks like me. Yes, that one right there.
So we got to a 4 because it wasn't a 5-1. We stopped at most furniture is child size because it's only less than half of the children can't reach the floor and stuff. So that's where we gave it a no.
Got it. So
That makes it a 4.
got it. So this is what I'm gonna do this. I think this line here is what made you come to a 4. I'm trying to circle, not scratch out. Sorry about that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So that means for number 1s, you got all.
Yeah, those were good.
Those were good. And then you got to 3.1. Sufficient furniture, yeses, yeses. And then this one,
There was
I
no
think
children
we
with
did a not
disability.
applicable, right?
Yeah.
So that means that everything under there is a yes. So now I can move to the next one. And then I get to 5. Most furniture is child size. And then you have this that says less than half of them are big enough. So it's not enough child size furniture. So you put
Correct.
no here, but then and when you get a no, I have to keep finishing.
You have to stop, right?
section. Well, I have to finish the section because it depends on if it's 50% or not, right? So if I go back up to the instructions, it says to get a 4 under 3, half of them have to have a yes. So I can keep going, but
Okay.
I know that I have a no here, so I need to make so at least half of them have to have a yes. So then
Okay.
5.2 is it sturdy and good repair?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
furniture permits inclusion. So then there's only 2 I'm rating. So now I have to stop there, and since all of those are, or at least half are not, then that means I'm a 4.
Okay.
So that's how we got to a 4, because
Yes.
this one was a no.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, I just did it because I
Yeah.
stopped at 5-1, so I didn't finish it, so.
But you still got to score 4. You
That's
got
good.
Ta-da! So those who got different scores, did you think of something else? Did you find something else in the scenario?
I can share. I
Yeah,
was one,
please
I
do.
was the one that got a 7. We got a 7 because we were discussing. So it says we gave a yes on 5.1 because it says less than half of the children. So I think that threw us off. So less than
Yeah.
half of the children, is that saying?
It's saying just a few. And I
It's
can
saying
see,
most of them
yeah,
are
I
big
can
enough.
see her point, Tamara. I can see her point clearly.
Isn't it saying most of them are big enough?
Yeah,
If less than half of them are big enough, then that means most of them are big enough.
Let's see
So
here.
most of them are child size.
Let's do that.
If it said like most of them are not big enough, I would have not given it a guess on that one.
Do
Does that make sense?
this, do this. I understand what you're saying. Let's
it
go
makes sense to me too. It's a
Okay.
little confusing.
The way it's written is what's confusing. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes.
Let me close that off. So they also go to during snacks. The rest of the time, the furniture, you notice that less than half of the children are big enough so that their feet rest on the floor. So they're saying less than half have furniture the right size for them.
The rest, yeah. The rest of the and that's why we gave her a 4 too, but it is confusing. When they word it that way, you can get confused very easily.
That is true. And that's why we give these activities and we say, let's do some practice. Let's read them through. And on your, here we go. And on your document, I've placed a video so that you can use videos also, meaning you have more than one way to practice the reading. So this video will show you scenarios in the classroom specific to the environment rating scale, and then you can rate those videos and then discuss them, right? So what did you see? What did they see? What did we miss? And I think the more you have discussions with your staff or those who are rating with you, the more you understand how the rating's supposed to happen.
Had a question on that one. So like if it were to say, or if we were to see more than half of the children or most of the furniture is adequate, then you can mark that yes. It doesn't have to be all of the furniture. So like if you had a classroom with 8 children and 5 of them had the right size chairs, but 3 of them were too small to fit in the chairs, you'd still mark that a yes.
Great question. So my answer to your scenario that you gave me is correct. And over here to the left, they'll often have additional notes to help you clarify what was meant by, right, these little symbols here. What do you mean by most furniture? And they'll give you an example.
I have another question. So if, because
Absolutely.
this is just the Ecker, so if we were to be using the one for the FCCs, and because they have a lot of children of different ages, would this be like clarified even more because of the range of children's ages is so much broader? Would something like this be more specific?
So that's why there are different ones, the way
Uh-huh.
they're, right? So for family childcare, it's green.
Right.
That one inside of here is worded differently than it would
Okay.
be. Let's take a look. So for, it says it's not the same language. How about that? Right? The language is different depending on the age group and the scenario. So 5.1 in the family childcare says most tables and chairs used for eating are made suitable to children's size.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've noticed with the Eckers. You really have to pay attention to those tiny little words that sometimes you're just reading it, especially when you do it over and over and over again. You
Yeah,
get compliant, you get complacent to that and you just read it. Oh, they have it. They
I
have it.
already
Oh,
know.
no. And
Mhm.
you're pretty much just looking for a yes or a no. And the Eckers is not like that at all.
Nope. Because the whole point is about quality, right? And I want to make sure that I'm providing it. And I think sometimes, just like you said, Miss Edie, we get into our rut where we think we know it all already, but it's always good to go back and review and reflect with others about how we got here and what that means. So one of my big things is this idea around striving for this perfection of number 7 versus am I really giving myself the honest rating so that I can make change? Right? The whole point is to have continuous improvement, not to get a set, right? I want a 7, but I want continuous improvement. Is this an area we need to grow and we need to change? All right. Great job, everybody. So inside that workbook that you all have, there are several other activities you can do with your staff, from the scramble activity to using that video that's on your document to going over the instructions again about how to rate. Now, many programs have an assessor who will come out and do the rating for you. Some programs do some inter-rater reliability within their agency, and they'll have teacher from room A go and rate teacher B or room B's classroom, just so that they have an idea of what it is they're looking for. Right? If I have an assessor come to my teacher's classroom and she's in there doing the Eckers, but my teacher has no idea what they're looking for, that's not really a fair assessment of the environment. Everyone needs to know what the expectation is. So make sure you go through what these items are, why we are saying they need to be a part of your environment, and how, right? Training my staff about how to make sure those materials are available year-round. One of the activities that many of you spoke to was the inter-rater reliability activity that's inside of your Google Doc. So we give you a handout. We give you a scenario so that your staff can all rate that scenario. And if they don't all come up with the same number, that's fine. Let's talk about it. How did you get here? How did you get there? Let's read through the scenario again. I think I see another hand up.
It's me, yes. I thank you for adding that. I also wanted to chime in as a consultant. There are things that we do look for when we're observing with the 3. And so there are things that we need to hear when we're out there. And so it's very important that you guys do go over that with your teaching staff. Because say, for example, in nature and science, we need to hear some type of conversation happening that revolves around the weather or something that pertains to nature and science. So thank you, Tamara, for adding that.
You're welcome. On the Google Doc, since you as CDSS funded programs have the option to choose between the R or the 3, we've added an Eckers 3 section that has the materials we could find. This link will take you to the website where those materials are in case you need it for the infant, toddler, or for the family child care. So we do have the little bit of resources we were able to find right there on your document. So now let's talk about what your requirements are as a part of your contract with CDSS. So no matter the size of your program or your agency, each program is responsible that your environment rating scale data is completed by the classroom or family child care home, also by the site or family child care home, and then at the program level. So each classroom or family child care site must have an environment rating scale profile completed. And then after each classroom's completed, you put that together in order to get a program environment rating scale. So inside of your documents on that Google Doc and at the end of each age-appropriate booklet. So at the end of each booklet, you can find this document, and we've given you one on the Google Doc. There will be a profile sheet. The profile sheet is completed per classroom. Each classroom, each family childcare home. You are rating each of those items based on what you see inside the classroom. For each classroom, you must also complete a classroom summary of findings. Any item that is below a 5 needs an action plan. So for the classroom, I'm looking at all the items 5 or less. Classroom items. In the chat box, put down classroom equals items. It's really important because it becomes a little different when you do it at the program level, right? So for each of my classrooms or family childcare homes, any item below a 5 must have some action steps. How are we going to rectify that? How do we address that? Okay, on the screen, you should be able to see an Eckers profile. Is that right? Yes, thank you. I see a thumbs up. I'm going to make it a little bigger like this because my screenshot on the computer looks a little too small. So I'm going to try and make this bigger. So you can see that this is your subscale of space and furnishings. This is your subscale of personal care routines. This is your subscale of language and reasoning. Those are the subscales. Within each subscale, there are items, right? So this has 8. This one has from 9 to 14, so that's 6. Language and reasoning has 4. Each of the subscales has a different amount of items. Any item that scores 5 or below must have an action plan. So if I'm looking at this subscale of activities, which of the items, 5 is over here, which of the items do I need to address for this subscale of activities? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. There's already answers on the screen, and I like to give people an answer. So which items do I need to address from the subscale of activities? 224 blocks in dramatic play. That's right. Thank you, everybody. So then what that looks like on my summary of findings, here's my sample summary. Oh, you can't see that. Can you see that now? Thank you. So on my sample summary of findings, my key finding is that the blocks aren't accessible. The classroom doesn't have sufficient blocks for 2 children. So my action step is specific to that. What are we going to do? I need to increase those amount of blocks. I need to make sure the teachers do the labeling and organization. I need to make sure that we have 3 different types of blocks available and accessible to children on open shelves. Those are the action steps I'm going to take for this classroom. So Jill's comment is not seeing a 6 or 7 in supervision is concerning. You should absolutely address that. So give me a second. I'm going to come back to that. Let me finish my thought here. So then you have when you expect to have that done, and use this summary of findings to follow up for the next couple of months. So you wrote this summary or this action plan about what you're going to do. Use it to follow up. Don't just write it and file it away somewhere. It should be a part of the weekly discussions when we're talking about what we're going to do next week within our classroom, when we're saying, when we're talking about what changes or rotations we're having in our classroom and why, right? So we might want to move some of the blocks to the other side of the room and some blocks over here on the other side of the room, or are we deciding to have all the blocks in one space? Those discussions should be happening on a regular basis. That's how you make sure your action plan is coming to fruition.
Mine, it's always the same thing. Like when we do the exercise, our challenge is the space. And sometimes it is like our block area and stuff. So I don't know, like we cannot make the room bigger. If you put the blocks bigger, then you have to put another area smaller. So that's a really challenge. Like I think I don't know for everyone, but for us, every year is the same. Like score, even if we try our best to make that black area bigger, it's just the size of the classroom, I think.
It becomes more difficult because of the physical space you have.
Yes.
If anyone on the call has ideas on how they can be creative with their physical space, feel free to type those into the chat box. I love the networking that happens on these calls.
Yeah, I would say if you have blocks in your outdoor area, it could still count towards the
Yes.
blocks for that block area. Just make sure that you're out there for enough time in order to achieve that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought if she can use the bigger blocks outdoors,
Mhm.
and maybe she can either leave them there and cover them or have a little cart that you can move them out when you go outdoors and play them. It counts, and just leave the smaller blocks inside to so it doesn't interfere with the space because I can see that.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So now we're going to assume you have done that for every classroom within your agency or your family child care home network. Everybody's had those summary of findings completed. Once that happens, now as a program administrator, you have a little extra work to do. I have a document for you on your Google Doc that says compile subscale scores. So I'm going to go back just for a second. Here it says subscale scores. So we're switching from the items to the subscales. You as the administrator are looking for subscale scores that are 5 or below that you need to address on an agency level. Anything subscale, 5 and below, has to be addressed at an agency level. Items is classroom, subscale is agency. Please type subscale equals agency into the chat. This is where the difference happens, right? For the teacher, I want them to make changes that have sphere of influence on that classroom, that room of children. For the agency, you're making an action plan for the entire program. What's going to be good for every child that's here? So remember on that sample, I showed you how there were some items that were 5 and below, and those needed to be addressed by the classroom. But this subscale for space and furnishings is a 4.5. The subscale. I get a subscale number by adding up all of these scores, the 6 plus the 7 plus the 2 plus the 2 plus the 4 plus the 4 plus the 4 plus the 8. Plus the 7. Just seeing if you're paying attention. And then I have to divide it by the number of items. That's how I get this subscale score. So any subscale, 5 or below, I need to use that for each of my classrooms. Now they got me being a mathematician, everybody. So if this only has 5 boxes on it. The document I gave you is a Word doc, so you can add to it to meet the needs of your agency, or you can create your own system. This is just a resource to help you with this step. It's nothing that's required. If you have a better way of doing it through Microsoft Excel, through AI, then please do that. But we just gave you a resource to use to help. So for classroom A, I'm going to put their subscale. For classroom B, I put their subscale. For classroom C, D, and E. Then I have to do math again. I have to add those up, divide it by however many classes I have. And if this subscale is below a 5, I need to write an action plan at the agency level. So inside of your Google Doc, we do have an example of how to write your summary of findings at the agency level. Go ahead and pull that up, and I'll show you where to find the sample. So here I am on that Google Doc again. That compiled document that I just showed you is one of the documents right here. So there's one for ITERS, there's one for family childcare, there's one for school age, and there's one for ECHRS. Right below down here in other resources, there's a sample ERS for the program. So subscales and averages were listed. The key finding is that subscale 3, subscale 4, and subscale 5 are all below a 5. And so as an agency, that's where we're going to write our key findings. We dug deeper and looked at which specific items might need a little bit more support. And then we wrote some very specific action steps that are the sphere of influence of the agency, not just the classroom. So as an agency, we're going to adopt and train our staff on POLE strategies. As an agency, all of my staff are going to attend this workshop and be expected to infuse a new strategy every month. So not just go to the training, what's the accountability part? What happens after the training? And then we're also going to include anchor charts into all of our classrooms. This is going to help us to increase or to encourage increasing language. And then we're going to have a professional development and coaching series about worksheets in the program and how those aren't developmentally appropriate and what else we could do. That's a lot of info about how to write your classroom and how to write your program. I really believe in the power of processing thought and things that were just said to us. So I'm going to place you into your breakout rooms and I want you to discuss, one, when are we doing our environment rating scale? 2, who's going to help me or be a part of making sure that our program action steps are at the program level? Right? Not just little classroom levels, not just going by brand new things, but how do we make sure our program action steps are at the program level? So those are your 2 questions to talk about. And if any questions come up, please bring them back to the main group. You'll be in your breakout rooms for the next 4 minutes. On your mark, go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Can I get someone, a nice brave person, to unmute and share what you discussed in your breakout room?
The 3 of us discussed, some people have it open to do it whenever they can do it. In my agency, we do it right when we start. So I try to, I have it done within the first 45 days, simply because I want to catch everything, because this is the environment. It's where the kids roam. So if all my teachers and everybody sees, okay, we're opening classroom, we're starting July 1st, and we're low here and there and great on the rest, at least I have the rest of the year to fix it and be able for the kids to enjoy it and those families to enjoy it. Because if I do it towards the end, then we move and the cycle is done. So those kids, it was a dissatisfaction for those kids. And the group, of course, we all agree. The director, of course, if the director is not there, we won't be able to really and fully implement changes. Site supervisors for those sites where we're doing the classroom, the teachers, and someone like me, for example, which I'm like an education coordinator, manager, whatever. And then prior and after, this is what we're going to do. You should be expecting us coming in, switching the personnel so nobody can do their own classroom. We swap them, and sometimes I tell some of the teachers, I'll do it this time for you. And then I'll go in and I do it as a surprise. But, and then of course, this is what we found. We have to let them know what we found, good or bad. And a lot of the times there's so many good things, it's just a few fours, whatever. And then fix it. the most important thing for me, Tamara, is doable correction action plans. You don't want to put on your correction action plans, I'm going to change the whole playground this year, because budget, managers, corporate, there's so many things there involved. You need to do little things that you can acquire, you can fix, and you can feel successful. Otherwise, you're setting yourself for failure.
Edie, you made a lot of great points, especially for those who are new to this and they might not know how to attack it at first. And I think one of your first good points is that there's no requirement that says when you have to do it. You decide when is good for your program. Edie has said what's good for our programs to do it as soon as the kids get here, because I want their environments to be set up for them. I want them to have quality environments when they show up. So you get to schedule that. Make sure all of your staff know so that it is not a surprise to them. You want them to be a part of this process, not shocked about it. And then the other thing you mentioned is sometimes your goals might be very lofty, like to do a brand new yard or to add a garden. And you can have long-term goals. Is that a classroom goal or is that a long-term agency goal? Right? That can be a long-term agency goal. And you can tell CDSS, your consultant, this is the goal we're working on. Our plan is that for the next 3 years, this is what we're doing. Just tell them what the plan is. Things like that, things as big as adopting a new curriculum or putting in a new yard, your consultant knows that that's not going to happen overnight.
Exactly. And you know what? Also, the time, I'm very timeline. We have so many things during the first 45 days. And that we breathe 45 days. And that's why we decide, okay, if we're going to do 10 documents in 45 days, we're going to do 11. And that's why we do it. But also, we rely a lot on donations and stuff like that because of the budget. So I have time, okay, to, if I get something wrong, you had a good point. A garden. Who doesn't want a nice garden? It lights up the yard and whatever. I go to Home Depot. I try to get donations, the seeds, the dirt, a couple of pails, a couple of shovels for the kids. And I explain and build a relationship so we can get little things like that away from budget. And make it happening anyways for you. And even if they say no, or they give you just a little bit instead of what you want, but at least,
that it's started.
We can do little pots. I don't know. It's a start. And you take pictures, you document it, and it shows to your consultants that you're in the right path. That you're there because you want to make it better, not because you just get a paycheck. You are following the protocol or the rules, the funding rules, whatever you want to call it.
Or meeting the needs of your children and family.
Absolutely. You know why? A garden is much better than no garden.
Small pots are better than
little pots in the windowsill. What can I say?
And I think Amanda said, we're asking for the science stuff. Show her that we're trying to get the pots in here. We're trying to get the plants in here.
And look at all the things going on with STEM now. Everything is STEM this, STEM that. And people get discouraged sometimes because they also feel like, oh, now they came up with this. Now we gotta learn this. STEM is something we do every day. We sneeze and it's part of STEM, environment, and you got to look at it that way, because sometimes the teachers have a big responsibility. They're the ones on the trenches working with the kids. We observe, and that's very easy to say,
Thank you so much, Edie. Appreciate
I'm
that.
not going to talk on the rest of it.
Well, that's okay because we're down to our last 15 minutes. So thank you.
I'll be quiet.
No
I'm
need.
going to
No
unmute
need.
myself.
You got something to share, please do. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. I think it just helps to spark ideas for others. Maybe we feel like we got stuck with something like, oh yeah, I can do that, right? I can start small. That's fine. Are there any other ideas or thoughts you might still be having about the environment rating scales that I can answer for you? Anybody? Yes, Dr. Nordine?
Yeah, yes, there was a questionnaire within our group. I think that for the subscale, it's done at the classroom level at the if there is an agency that have 9 schools or 10 schools. And so they want to do the subscale at the classroom level, or I mean the classroom, and then they do it at the school level and then at the agency level, or just the classroom and then the agency.
So the items are for the classroom, right? I need the individual items to be addressed for classrooms. Now, I think what I heard you say is some agencies have maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 sites, right? And each of those sites has 3 different classrooms. So site 1 has classroom A, B, C. Site 2 has classrooms D, E, and F. Those sites can also write an action plan for the site. Does that make sense?
So they can make a subscale for the site and write an action plan, and then we can do an overall agency level.
Correct.
Yes, this is my logic too. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So just to let you know what resources are available. So there's the training booklet that we gave to everyone back in October. You should have got it mailed out to you. And if not, Maria got who said no in the chat, and she'll reach out to you. And for the revised, there are all about the Eckers, all about the ITERS book, and they go into detail about each of the items so that if something looks confusing, these are great resources to go into just to see exactly what they're speaking of. Those exist for the 3 as well. You do have to purchase them. Those are not free. They cost. So if someone's giving them out, go and collect them. Sometimes you might find somebody who's giving them out.
In regards to overseeing multiple centers, when you do the individual centers and have the general overall scoring, then do you have to compare that with the other centers and try to get all the centers to be? No. Okay.
No, we're not comparing centers. So this is the way I look at it. Each center has their own culture, right? And their own group of families. And so so each of them do things differently. And what one site might need might not be what the other site needs. So I'm looking at the classrooms within this center. And what do we need to do as a center so that we are all as this one big place doing well, in addition, all of the classrooms in there. And that might not be the same as we're at center number 2.
What if when you're doing the Eckers, you are facility limited? For example, you might have a classroom that has no ability to have fresh air coming into the classroom. For safety reasons or whatever, and it can only be utilized through maybe air conditioning or heat. What if you have a very large program that you've had to a large room that you had to divide it, utilizing furniture instead of walls, and now your noise level and the ability for children to maintain safety, those things, you're just limited because of the facility you're given.
I think someone else mentioned that before. I think that was Myra. Limited by space, and then you have to get creative with your space. I had a childcare center when I was a director that was in an old firehouse.
Oh.
Exactly. And there were no walls. It was just this big empty space. And we had to figure out, how do we still meet our goals within the environment rating scale? We brought in padded walls, like to soften it and to soften the sound. So you just got to get creative with your space.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else have an idea for her?
You know what, Tamara? We have multiple sites too, and I have 52 schools. So you figure we go all the way from San Pedro to the Santa Clarita area, and we have gorgeous, big, huge spacious rooms, and we have little tiny ones that you hate, okay?
Mhm.
But on some of them that are very large, but we have had to divide them, think about maybe doing a half a wall. In a lot of them, we instead of construction, the whole wall all the way to the ceiling, we have been able to do a half a wall and then put some kind of a partition on top of that wall that goes high like a plexiglass that is well anchored, is part of the construction, but it's not as expensive as
Right.
you may think by constructing a whole wall with an opening and a door, because you gotta be very creative. And
Yes.
the noise level, it can be horrendous when you have little ones. I understand that. I have a space that have three.
Overwhelming.
Yes, I have a space that have 3 rooms in one big space. And that's what we
Yeah,
did.
we have that too.
Yeah, we found someone that was able to do, the little half a wall, to up to like, I want to say 4.5, 5 feet. And then the rest, either you leave it open, but it does help, or you use something, partitions or something like that. There are ways to go about it and maybe put it on your long goal for the budget. I'm always making notations when I want something that I know they're gonna say no, but I put it for like a Christmas wish list.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
You're welcome.
Something that I always kind of remind my teachers is if you like really don't have control over something like building a wall in your classroom to separate areas, just like really focus on things that you do have control over and excel in those areas so it kind of balances out your scores. Of course, you want to do well in all areas, but
Yeah.
some things are really going to be unattainable. So really focus on the ones that you do have control over.
Absolutely.
What's your sphere of influence right now?
Mm.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you all. So as we move forward, I want you to, here we go. I think about how, as a part of this program self-evaluation process, there's a lot of different things you're assessing. You're assessing children through your DRDP assessment. You're also using this environment rating scale. Encourage your staff to look for the similarities. Encourage your staff to look for the similarities. Instead of using DRDP in this silo, oh, this is DRDP over here and has nothing to do with the environment rating scale, look at where there's some kind of alignment between them, and that's going to help you with your data. For instance, if you have your DRDP and you know that your measures for math 1 through 5, there's an item in your environment rating scale, item number 6, that's specific to math. What's the score we got there versus how our children are doing in math, right? If we have a 4 or a 3 in item 6, and our children are at the earlier levels in these measures or at the earlier levels in math, those are probably working together. So what do I need to do? One, to support children's learning and development, and to increase or to make my environment better around this particular item. Look for the similarities. Within your curriculum framework, either for infant toddler or for preschool, there is an entire section in the back for every domain. So there's a math domain in your curriculum framework. This is different from the foundations. In the framework, there's a section for reflection. All of these questions will be there for that domain. And then you could use those questions of reflections to either change or justify your environment rating scale scores. Use this as a training opportunity or discussion opportunity with your staff based on the score. Do we need to integrate more sorting and patterning? How are we engaging children in exploring and describing patterns? Are we just giving it to them? Or are we encouraging them to talk about it? So these types of questions just help to lead to supporting the scores that you currently have. So there's a question in the chat from, I think it's Audrey. She says she has both. she has CSPP. Oh, and then she has and I'm sorry, you have CCTR, but then your infant toddler program is funded by CDSS, right? If your classroom is strictly CSPP, you don't do the ECHRS, you'd use CLASS. But it looks like for your infant toddler program, you will need to do the ITERS because you're getting funding through CDSS.
Tamara, I have a question for you.
Yes.
And maybe you know, maybe not. Recently we were all the CSPP programs funded by the state. They were giving the Class E, which is kind of like the environments in there.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, all the CCTR, which I have the toddlers and I have school age also. They continue doing the ECHRS, I'm sorry, the ITERS and the SACRS. Now, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Will it, at one point or another, will it be uniformed? Or because when the CDE decided to go Class E, I was expecting the DSS to follow. Because a lot of the times you follow the same protocol, but I can see that that's not in the future.
Got it. So Amanda raised her hand. Thank you, Amanda.
No worries. So, as of right now, we have not discussed class and we have not discussed going in that way. We have only stayed with the ERS.
Okay. That's fine. I was just wondering. I'm waiting for like any minute to happen to get a notification. But I see last year went by, this year is
Yeah.
almost over because we're in the half of
Yeah.
it. And it's gonna go like this and still. And I'm like, I wonder for educators that have so many
Yeah.
sites and so
Of
many.
course, of course.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
have-
do not foresee us doing any changes.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Appreciate it. So here goes some tips for setting up your quality environment. Make sure your staff are familiar with the requirements. There are several different resources on the Desired Results website or on that document we gave you, such as environment rating scale or infant toddler rating scale cards that just remind teachers of what's expected in those different environments, and have them practice rating even if you do have an assessor come out, just so that your teachers know what to expect. So as we close out, the homework for this session is to upload a DRDP classroom summary of findings. Those are usually done around October or November. Maria's going to send you a link to upload that. And then there's a set of CECO modules around learning environments that's available on California Early Childhood Online. We will email the homework out to everyone again, so that you know what the expectation is and where to put those things. It is December 4th, you guys? It is December
Yes, it
4th.
is.
Oh my greatness. That is wild to me. Though the year just blinked by. So this means I won't be able to, or we won't be talking to you, at least not in our big groups, until next year. Next year? Oh my goodness gracious. So from us to you, we want to say happy holidays. Have a wonderful and joyful new year. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And in my regular formats, I'm going to encourage everyone to turn on your cameras, unmute your lines. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.